Welcome back. I'm Travis with Linux Academy. In this lesson, we're going to be talking about how to use volumes with Docker Swarm. Now, when it comes to using volumes in Swarm mode, we're going to need to use a volume plugin. And the reason why is because the native driver for volumes is local. So this means that if you go and create a volume, it's only going to be created locally to where that command was executed. For example, let's say we create a service and it has multiple replica tasks, and those tasks are running on different nodes. A volume will be created on each worker node. So for example, if we have worker 1 and 2 and we have 2 replica tasks, each are running on those individual nodes, then we're going to have 2 separate volumes created, which presents a problem because if you change the data on one of the volumes, it's not going to be updated on the other. So the data is not going to be persistent across those volumes. And that's the reason why we need to use a driver. And typically this is going to be handled through some form of block storage device. Now, we can get around this by ensuring that a container is pinned to a specific node, but that kind of defeats the purpose of running things in Swarm mode. So this is the reason why we're going to be talking about plugins first. Now, I have my Docker Swarm set up over at DigitalOcean, and I'm using the RexRay plugin. And RexRay is great because it supports all sorts of stuff. It has a provider for EC2 with a number of the different storage platforms, EBS, EFS, as well as S3. It also supports Ceph, Dell EMC, as I mentioned, DigitalOcean, Google, Microsoft, as well as OpenStack Cinder. Now, if you want to go and learn more about the various plugins that are out there, you can go over to Docker Hub. I will have a link in the description. To learn more about the various plugins that are available for volumes, come over here and click on plugins, and over on the left, you can filter by category. I also have a listing of the more popular plugins over to my right. Unfortunately, I'm not able to go and install a volume plugin, but I can install the Splunk plugin instead. The way we go and install a plugin is by executing docker plugin install and then the name of the plugin. What options you have available is really kind of dependent on the plugin, and you can find those options in the documentation. You're going to be asked a question, do you want to give it permissions? And you are going to want to. To get a list of all the plugins, execute docker plugin ls. As you can see, we only have the one plugin installed, which is for Splunk. And if you want to go and remove it, we have to go and disable it first. To go and disable a plugin, execute docker plugin disable, and then supply the ID for the plugin. So if I go and relist my plugins, we should see that it is disabled. And now that the plugin is disabled, we can go and remove it. If I go and list my plugins again, I don't have any plugins installed. Now, if I wanted to go and install the RexRay DigitalOcean volume driver, again, I would be executing a docker plugin install. I would supply the name of the plugin, which is going to be rexray/Dobbs. And then Dobbs has some very specific options that need to be set, such as the Dobbs region, which is going to be the DigitalOcean region, along with my DigitalOcean token. And there's an additional option I need to set, which is convert underscores. If it's not set to true, if you use an underscore with your volume name, it's really going to mess things up. So this is actually required if you're using it. Okay, let's take a look at an example for AWS. This will install the EBS plugin. Now, there are several configuration options that are required. You need to supply the AWS access key along with the AWS secret key. Everything else is pretty much optional. So the way you would go and install this plugin would be by executing docker plugin install rexray/EBS. And then you supply your secret key as well as your access key. Additionally, you can also supply the region, and it kind of makes sense to use the region where your Swarm is configured. Okay, so let's go and set up a new volume. Now I want to point out that I am logged into my Swarm manager. The way we're going to go and create a volume in Swarm is just like on any regular Docker host. We're going to be executing a Docker volume create. We're going to use the D flag to specify the driver, which is going to be local, and then the name of the volume we're going to be creating. Since I promised we'll go and revisit Portainer, we're going to do that now. Now go and list your volumes, and you'll see that we have the Portainer volume. Now I'm on my first worker node, which is T-Thompson2C. And if I execute a docker volume ls, you can see that we don't have any volumes present. And that's because volumes using the local driver are local to the node they were created on. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a service that will be using the volume. We're not going to be using the volume flag because it is specific to containers, so we use mount instead. So execute docker service create. The service name, it will be Portainer. We're going to be publishing port 8000 over to 9000 on the container. And what we're going to do is constrain it to the manager. And the way I do this is by using the constraint flag, and I'm going to be supplying node.role, and it's going to be set equal to manager. This way, any replica task for my service will be created on my manager node. And for any reason, if those tasks get killed off, they're going to be respawned onto the manager. The first volume we're going to be creating, we use the mount flag. We set the type to equal volume. The source is the Portainer data volume that we created, and the destination is going to be /data. We also have a bind mount, so we're using the mount flag again, setting the type to equal bind. And then we supply the source, which is going to be var run docker sock, and the destination is going to be var run docker sock. We're using the Portainer image, and then we are passing a command in, which is going to be the docker sock. And we use -h unix : / that's 3 slashes, var run /docker sock. Go and list your services. As you can see, we have Portainer now running. We can go and access Portainer by using the public IP and then supplying the port of 8000. Just like before, we're going to go and create our user. So enter your password and then confirm it. And once you're done, click Create User. This time, rather than going and logging in and being presented with the option of what to go select, we already have our swarm being detected. And to go and access it, I just go and click on it. At this point, you're free to create stacks, services, as well as individual containers. To quickly recap, we've learned a lot in this lesson. We started off working with plugins because we need to use a plugin in order to use volumes in Swarm, at least to use them properly. We then created a volume that was local to our manager, and we then created the Portainer service that ran locally on the manager node. Coming up in the next lesson, we're going to start working with stacks. Go ahead and mark this lesson complete.